Last night, President Trump dropped another bombshell. 50% tariff on copper and a possible 200% tariff on pharmaceuticals. Copper tariffs are supposed to tentatively come into effect August 1st. Hi everyone, my name is Raluca MacKenzie and thanks for joining me today on this video about Trump's latest chaos he's igniting in the tariff trade war between Canada and the US. What I would love to know is, who taught Trump his math? Because he honestly just pulls numbers out of his behind. And he is the president of the United States of America. But honestly, this is turning out to be the worst Price is Right game in the history of North America. All right, so pharma tariffs are supposed to come in later if he doesn't change his mind. But the warning is pretty clear. This is aimed directly at countries like Canada. And if we don't pay attention, and if our government doesn't come up with some extremely strategic and clever plan, this is going to be worse than the steer tariffs. This isn't just some random trade move. It's targeted and it's designed, and it's going to hit Canada hard if we don't open our eyes. Trump announced the copper tariff late last night, and almost instantly, copper prices exploded. Over a 10% jump in futures. That's a pretty hefty market reaction. Meanwhile, pharma companies got a chilling warning. They've got 12 to 18 months to bring their operations back to the US soil, or they will face a 200% import tax. Now let's be real. That kind of pressure will absolutely shatter international supply chains. We're one of the biggest copper suppliers to the US. So this isn't just a US domestic policy. This is going to crush our mining sector, cost us thousands of jobs, and trigger another wave of inflation, especially in the clean energy space where copper is everything. It's EVs, wind turbines, solar grids, smart homes, battery storage. All of it relies on copper. And guess what? The US cannot meet its own copper demand. So they're trying to bully the rest of us into playing their game while pretending it's about national security. But it's not. It's all about leverage. And pharmaceuticals, Canada exports a huge amount of generics and API components to the United States. So if Trump slaps 200% duties on those, as much as it would be devastating for Canadians and jobs, let's not forget this affects the US tremendously as well. He keeps saying he wants to bring these industries back to the US. But this is not something that just happens overnight. It takes a tremendous amount of coordination, planning, infrastructure to bring these type of industries into your own country. Listen, I understand. You have to start somewhere. But these drastic measures being applied so carelessly will only corner the US in. Everyone will see shortages, delays, price spikes, and a massive squeeze on already fragile systems. Trump's basically saying, obey our trade rules or suffer. And let's not forget, this comes after he imposed 50% tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. He threatened auto parts just last month again. We implemented and dropped our DST, Digital Services Tax, within 48 hours to try to avoid this trade war from escalating. But Trump is still doing these things. So clearly, he isn't interested in diplomacy. He's trying to reset the entire power structure. Right now, Ottawa's in damage control mode. The loonie dropped to an 8-day low after Trump's announcement. The Bank of Canada is already struggling with inflation and consumer debt. If copper slows down and pharma's costs explode, we could see another interest rate hike. They would do this to stabilize our dollar. Meanwhile, the US Treasury is loving this. They're saying tariffs like these could bring in $300 billion by year end. I mean, that's a huge haul. And Trump's already floating the idea of using it to fund more tax cuts. But will this actually pan out that way? And then Canadians. I mean, this whole strategy, this tariff barrage, it's meant to isolate us, weaken our bargaining position, and force us into a one-sided deal. Trump wants full control of North American trade. That seems to be his end game. Because this is not about fairness, it's about dominance. Countries like Japan and South Korea are already sending trade reps to DC. Trump does this. He weaponizes tariffs, destabilizes allies, and then he demands concessions. If he moves on to softwood lumber again, or energy exports, for example, we could be looking at a full-blown trade ban because, as experts have reiterated, a 50% or larger tariff really ultimately bans a product because it's not feasible. Importers cannot eat up that kind of cost, and consumers are not willing to pay the price. Canada needs to start making some sort of moves. Besides diversifying supply chains, we need to start building infrastructure within our own country so that we are able to be less dependent on others. We are so rich in natural resources, but we're not very capable at bringing those resources to an end product. We need to lock in fair trade deals with Europe and Asia and start talking seriously about interprovincial trade, because we can't keep relying on the US for everything. Alberta and Ontario have gotten a head start on this, and it's a topic I'll cover in an upcoming video. But this isn't about politics anymore. It's about protecting our independence. When Trump hits us with a 50% on copper and threatens 200 on pharmaceuticals, this isn't just economic pressure anymore. This is economic warfare. And if we're not prepared, it'll be our jobs, our supply chains, and our sovereignty on the line. That's where we're at today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you found this breakdown helpful, please hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed, because I'm going to try my very best to keep covering this story every time it escalates or changes. As much as I wish I was sharing some great news, you need to stay informed and know what is going on in our country. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you will have a wonderful day.